Have you ever felt like you were 1 inch away from giving up? 1 inch away from dropping the weight, walking away, closing the book, or saying, I can't do this anymore? It's strange, isn't it? How the hardest part is often not the first mile or the middle stretch, but that final inch. The final inch between quitting and continuing. The final inch between failure and resilience. And today, I want to take you through 10 voices of wisdom, 10 quotes that all point back to this truth. Your life can change not by running an extra mile, but by enduring one final inch. Let's begin. Fall 7 times and stand up 8. Japanese proverb. This line is the DNA of resilience. It doesn't deny failure, it assumes it. It accepts that falling is woven into the human story. But standing up one more time is the final inch. Every rise after a fall is proof that the end was not really the end. Think of a boxer in the ring. The 7th fall doesn't define him, the 8th rise does. In our own lives, the 8th rise may look like rewriting the resume after a rejection, apologizing after a mistake, or simply getting out of bed when grief feels unbearable. That act of standing is the final inch that separates a temporary defeat from a permanent surrender. And no one understood the power of that inch better than Winston Churchill. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Winston Churchill. Spoken in the ashes of war, these words remind us that life is never frozen in a single moment. Success can fade, failure can pass, but courage endures. And notice, courage is not the absence of fear, it's the choice to continue anyway. Think of a marathon runner. Every step after mile 20 feels like collapse. But it's not the miles behind or ahead that matter, it's the final inch of choosing one more stride. In our daily battles, courage might look like returning to therapy after a setback, or opening the textbook again after failing the exam. Churchill's wisdom teaches us, resilience is not about one great act, but countless small inches of continuation. Yet even courage needs something to hold on to when the rope is slipping. When you come to the end of your rope, tie a knot and hang on. Franklin D. Roosevelt. FDR, paralyzed by polio, leading a nation through depression and war, knew what it meant to hang on. Sometimes resilience isn't glamorous. Sometimes it isn't running forward, it's clinging to the rope with raw fingers. The knot is that final inch. It's the prayer whispered in darkness. It's the decision to endure today without having answers for tomorrow. I once read of a climber trapped on a ledge through a storm. He tied himself to a single anchor, waiting for dawn. It wasn't strength that saved him, it was the knot. And in our lives, when everything else slips, resilience is found in the knots we tie. Faith, love, stubborn hope. And that stubbornness was exactly what Einstein credited for his breakthroughs. It's not that I'm so smart, it's just that I stay with problems longer. Einstein's genius wasn't just intellect, it was endurance. Notice the phrase, stay with problems. Most people flee from discomfort, but Einstein lingered. He leaned in. That lingering was his final inch. Think of puzzles in your own life. A business idea not yet working, a relationship still mending, a skill not yet mastered. The difference is rarely brilliance, it's staying power. Every problem has layers, and the deeper truths only reveal themselves to the ones who refuse to walk away too soon. Einstein shows us that resilience isn't always dramatic, it's patient. And patience is essential when the dream feels impossible. It always seems impossible until it's done. Nelson Mandela. Mandela carried this truth through 27 years in prison. For him, freedom seemed impossible until one day it wasn't. That's the nature of impossibility. It's an illusion standing 1 inch in front of victory. Think about learning to swim. You flail, swallow water, panic. But once you cross that final inch of coordination, suddenly it's effortless. The impossible vanishes the moment persistence outlasts doubt. Mandela teaches us that every impossible is just 1 inch away from becoming inevitable. But to reach that inch, you must first believe. Believe you can, and you're halfway there. Theodore Roosevelt. Belief is the ignition spark of resilience. Without it, even small steps feel impossible. With it, mountains shrink. Roosevelt, once a sickly child with asthma, transformed himself into a symbol of vigor because he believed he could. Belief is not empty, it's active. It pushes you through the first half of the journey and carries you toward the final inch. In your own life, think of the moments you doubted yourself. Didn't the weight feel twice as heavy? Belief doesn't finish the climb, but it gives you enough strength to reach the part where resilience takes over. And resilience, as Steve Jobs once said, is often the main difference between those who finish and those who quit. I'm convinced that about half of what separates the successful entrepreneurs from the non-successful ones is pure perseverance. Steve Jobs. Jobs was fired from his own company, humiliated publicly, yet returned to revolutionize the world. Perseverance was his final inch. Half of success, he said, isn't brilliance or timing, it's staying power. Look at startups, writers, athletes. So many quit just before the breakthrough. The product almost ready, the manuscript almost finished, the record almost broken, but perseverance carries them across the invisible line. It's not always talent, it's stubborn refusal to quit. And stubborn refusal echoes across centuries, captured by Confucius. Our greatest glory is not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. Falling is guaranteed. Glory is not. But glory is born in the rising. Think of a toddler learning to walk. They flail. Every fall feels final, but each rise brings them closer to running. That rise is the final inch. Confucius reminds us that failure is not a grave, it's a training ground. Every fall is the tuition for future strength. The real shame is not in falling, it is in refusing to rise. And sometimes rising must happen not once, but over and over again. You may have to fight a battle more than once to win it. Margaret Thatcher. Thatcher's words ring true for anyone who's battled addiction, self-doubt, or grief. Victory is rarely won in a single strike. Often, you return to the same battlefield again and again. It feels repetitive, discouraging, endless. But each return is another inch of resilience, and eventually the accumulation of inches becomes triumph. So if you find yourself fighting the same battle, don't despair. It's not a sign you're losing. It's proof you're still in the fight. And through all these battles, Confucius offers the final reminder that ties everything together. It does not matter how slowly you go, as long as you do not stop. Speed is irrelevant. Persistence is everything. Because the road to resilience isn't measured in miles, it's measured in inches. 1 inch today, 1 inch tomorrow, and before you know it, you've crossed mountains. Think of a glacier. It moves slowly, almost imperceptibly, but over time it reshapes entire landscapes. That's resilience, not speed, but unstoppable motion. The final inch, taken again and again, becomes a lifetime of progress. So here we are. 10 quotes, 10 voices, all whispering the same truth. Your strength is tested not in easy miles, it's tested in the final inch. The inch where everything in you screams to quit. The inch where victory is invisible but waiting. The inch where resilience is born. So if you feel like giving up, I want you to remember this. You are closer than you think. The finish line may not be visible, but it is near. 1 more inch, 1 more rise, 1 more breath. That is resilience. That is your story, and that is why you must never, ever give up.